Quarter number 2, welcome to our round table, around coffee table. I'm Mason Sousa. To the right of me, there's also Mason Cummins and Walter Sabina. Thank you very much for finding us. We are on Facebook and Twitter, Straight Facts Homie. Join the conversation there. So, everything week 6. There was obviously some referee errors. Do you want to do that here, or do you want to push that off to later? What was that the biggest thing out of week 6?
I mean, so especially after the Monday night game.
Yes,
it was with all the bad calls that came out of it, and then practically giving the game away to the Packers. Obviously, for those of you who don't know, it's the end of the Detroit Lions Green Bay Packers game. A couple of bad, according to fans and players, bad illegal hands to the face calls against the Green Bay Packers offensive lineman from former Patriot Trey Flowers. Multiple 15-yard penalties on that, keeps drives going. And then the second one put the Packers into field goal range. Mason Crosby, of course, hits a game-winning field goal as time expired, giving the Packers a 23-22 victory. But again, it just comes back to the refereeing, and not even in just that game, other games over the weekend, going back to the pass interference calls in the challenges, because now the referees are looking at that and whether you overturn it or not. And it comes down like, what's the threshold for that? It's just a lot of subjective errors that people just want to see corrected for in all these games.
Yeah, and I especially want to go back to the Trey Flowers call, because the NFL actually came out and said, yeah, we made the wrong call on this. It was a face mask call, I believe. Hands
to the face, yes. Yep.
But he was called a second time, and both calls, in my opinion, should never have been called in the first place. So Trey Flowers was not happy about it, voicing his opinion on it. Something has to change. This has been an issue ever since, obviously, last year, especially in the NFC Championship game, with the whole pass interference call. But I don't know what's going on with these referees. Are they blind? I mean, these are some really obvious calls that they're missing.
Trey Flowers played in 50 NFL games previous to Monday Night Football, had never been called for hands to the face.
Wow.
He was called for twice in the fourth quarter in Monday Night Football. And if you slow it down, maybe the left tackle for the Packers, David Bakhtiari, does a little sell job, puts his head up there. And Walter, you mentioned before the show, he got in the ref's ear like, hey, are you calling hands to the face or not?
Yeah.
So that ended up happening in the fourth quarter. So, but it wasn't just that. Those were obviously the two most egregious. They ended up being drive savers and drive winners for the Packers. Looking on the other side of the ball, when the Lions are kicking 5 field goals against the Packers, maybe not taking advantage of opportunity there. But I don't think that should be the point. Get the call right. Walter, you used the word subjective, and it absolutely should be objective. It shouldn't just be, is it this, is it that, is it letter of the law, is it a foul or not? That's what it should be, and it's been years now since, they make these officials full-time, part-time, they go back and forth with that. They don't put enough interest into this, because this is one situation where the referees decided the game. There's no question about it, and that can never happen in the NFL. So it was very shady, and there were other situations where the Lions were called for 12 men. The Packers actually lined up on defense. 13 men were on the field. Not even a man was running off the field. There were 13 men in defensive stances, and they let the Packers call a timeout. That can't happen. After huddling, if you have more than 11 men on the field, that should be a penalty. So, someone needs to be reprimanded. Someone needs to be fired, because that was egregious on Monday Night Football, and that should absolutely never happen.
What do you guys think of the possibility? Bill Belichick's brought this up in the past, and it's starting to look, maybe they should go that way, is challenging everything. These holding calls, these hands to the face, because maybe Matt Patricia, coming from the Belichick tree, agrees maybe I should have had the opportunity to challenge that and see that it wasn't hands to the face, and now the Packers have to punt, or now the Packers are backed up another 10, 15 yards, however long the penalty is, and it yes, it makes the game longer and you look at those negatives, but in the end, these calls hopefully are going to be, corrected if they're that egregious.
There's no hope, though, because you see what they're doing with the pass interference challenge this year. They're challenging, and you mentioned a couple times now, there was a play in the Patriots game where Golden Tate was clearly pass interfered. They challenged it, and they're like, no pass interference. What? He clearly is interfered with before the ball gets there. And now we're going to challenge everything else? It's... I don't understand. I really don't. What if Al Riveron, the head official back in New York, who makes the final decision on these challenges, I don't know if he has an agenda, because all this needs to be put into question. It really does, because some of this stuff is just silly at this point. That's clearly a foul, and when it's not, we're like, what? What are we watching? You're pushing away casual viewers now. And you mentioned, it ties into, Walter, length of game. If you challenge, not to pick on your suggestion here, but if you challenge everything, like now you're turning it into baseball, aka I'm not watching anymore. That's just me. So that's how I feel about that situation.
Well, maybe if they only have a certain number of challenges, which they do at the moment, right? Is there a limit for the amount of pass interference challenges they have?
It's the 3 challenges. If that's still right, if you get the 2 correct, you get an extra 1.
Okay, so if there's a limit, I mean, I think that you should be able to challenge everything, because if they use a challenge to call, let's say, like a holding call or something like that, they are wasting that challenge there. They can't use it for a play later. It's not really going to make the game longer, considering, assuming that they spend all 2 or 3 of their challenges. But at the same time, as both of you were saying, what's going off the pass interference calls, they're not really overturning many of them, and I don't think it would make much of a difference. So I don't know. I'm not sure if it would make much of a difference if it was all of the different penalties you could challenge.
When Lions legend Barry Sanders is tweeting about this, who I heard never criticized anyone in his career, when he's tweeting quotes, what did they say? "This is sickening." Talking about that, you messed up when Barry Sanders is saying. There were players all around the league. Donta Hightower even got involved, Patriots linebacker, saying, "I don't know about that." Talking about Trey Flowers' hands to the face. So penalties are up again this year. We need Tom Brady to tweet again about on Thursday Night Football. Bring that down. It's with all these penalties. You mentioned there was some in a Cleveland Brown game.
Yes.
They're up to 15 a game rather than 5 years ago where it was 12, which is a decent amount. Obviously 3, but that's a good maybe 10 minutes, because it seems like these officials huddle after every false start, to figure it out. And that when I turn the channel and I see a flag every 3 or 4 plays, it's turning me away. It's turning me away. So I don't know. It's the situation where you try to get down to the bottom of it and you end up hurting yourself in the NFL. I don't know. Is there what's the solution to this? Do we have independent referees from not even involving in the NFL getting to the bottom of this? Do we have do we make them full scale evacuation of the referees, get new guys in here? I don't know. But something needs to change, and it needs to change fast.
So going back to my original point of being able to challenge everything. If you go back to, you remember that league, the AAF? It was quite a while ago. It only lasted a couple of weeks, but they had something that was called a sky judge, and it was another referee up in the box that when a team wanted to challenge something, the official down in the field would talk to the sky judge, and actually in the AAF broadcasts, you'd be able to see that sky judge looking over the replays and what they see and this and that, and then they would make their decision. I believe when a referee is challenging, or looking at a replay of a play, it's just that referee. They're not talking to anyone else, if I'm correct. I don't know, they put the headset on or whatever, but if we're able to sort of see that exchange and maybe even it's just to put it on the broadcast so people can hear why they're making that, decision, instead of, you're not hearing anything, so the referee may just be like, this is close, I'm just going to call it this way, instead of actually, dissecting it and hearing why they're making the decision and why this and that. And again, I think it would just go back to, making the right call, despite the time that's being wasted. And again, no one wants to sit and watch a 4-hour football game, but I mean, if every call's right, you're never going to satisfy everyone, essentially. It's either you're going to deal with these penalties and get a 3-hour broadcast, or you get all the calls right and get a 4-hour broadcast. So you can't appeal to everyone, but I would personally just rather see get every call right, because it's just
because you can't have a situation.
It would be a smoother game.
Yeah, like Monday Night Football. I think the head officials should hold a press conference after every game. They should get grilled like every player does. Why this call? Why would you do this? And blah, blah, blah. There's a pool reporter that goes in. One reporter talks to the official, and it's like a couple paragraphs. But if you put him up at a podium, put his feet to the fire, and figure out what the deal is, maybe that changes some decisions in the future. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like going to a different sport. The NBA, after I think a week or something, they look at all the games and they put out a 2-minute report,
right,
which is all the things they messed up with in the final 2 minutes of certain games. And I ever since they've been doing it, I'm always like, why do they do that? Because it's not going to change the outcome of the game. Saying, this should have been a foul. I don't know if it's just to bring attention to it, just to hopefully improve it,
right,
in future games. But you can't go back and change it. So what's the point of admitting, you're wrong afterwards? Yeah, it's just kind of admitting your faults, but it doesn't change the outcome of the game. Obviously, they came out after the Saints-Rams game and said, yes, that was the wrong call, but you can't go back and change it. So what's the point of even
mentioning
admitting it? Just move on from it. So.
Yeah, you sound incompetent at that point. Yeah, we got the call wrong. We still called it, but we got the call wrong.
Yeah.
I don't get it.